Welcome to this week's Coach's Corner. Our special guest this week is our fine cross-country coach, Kelly Chaney, who's one of the best cross-country coaches in the state, been at it a long time. And Coach, first of all, the team has gotten off to a good start already. You were in Enid last week. Tell us the results of how that went.
The varsity boys and girls were probably 5th and 6th in our 10-team meet last Thursday. And our junior high girls and boys both won the event. So we was very pleased. We had some really good results from that.
What is the team like this year? I know you've got a couple of kids back. Is it a young team, though?
Young team, but we had some newcomers that came out. Abby Lewis is a senior. She's been out there for several years now, and she qualified for state for 2 of those years. She placed 4th, and we had some other girls. Rebecca Gilliland looked really good. Elise McEnany did really well. She was our number 2 runner. Shalise Brown, who is a senior, has never ran before. Was also in the medal rounds. So she's a senior. She's never ran cross country before. And we had some really good boys that looked really good. Garrison Blanton was our best runner. He had a 12 minutes. In fact, he was 8th overall. And then we had several young kids, a junior. We had some really good kids that did really well. Davis Dickerson was a junior. Mm-hmm. He had like a low 12s. We also had Landon Dyer, who's never ran cross country before, and he's a junior and had 13:42. And Michael Cran had never ran before. He's another good medalist for us. Tyler Thompson, a sophomore, and Delmar Van Duzer. Those 2 ran in the JVs, but they actually will bump off 2 guys off the varsity team. So at the first race you go to, you don't know who's in the best kind of shape and who's a racing shape, and so there's going to be some flip-flopping around on the boys and the girls varsity teams.
You and I have talked about this. The beauty of cross country is that no lineup is set in stone, and the other part is that maybe some kids that are trying to find their sport, it may not be a football or basketball, but cross country is always there, and a lot of kids, I'm sure, do find their sport in cross country.
We have people that's coming from basketball to get in shape, and soccer, and track and field, and even some other areas. So we're really pleased with the turnout, and it's an event that anybody can do. You just basically have to get out there and run.
With the heat, and I ask this question because it doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me, but cross country, it's got to be fun for that many kids to be participating in cross country.
Well, it is. They just feed off each other. And some of those people who got beat off, from the varsity, they're going to train extra hard. They'll work harder in practice. And then some of them are getting up early in the mornings to avoid the heat, and they're running when it's 85 degrees. Or some of them are go home and eat, and then do some work, and then maybe run at 9 o'clock at night for another 30 minutes. So it's just going to be a vicious cycle between now and the end of the season as who's going to beat each other off.
Does your practice schedule change any when it's 100 degrees outside? You go
Yes.
through the same thing?
Yes, we're not going to go out on 6, 7, and 8 mile runs.
Yeah.
You just have to be very careful. We bought them all water bottles, like you'd have on a bicycle, and we have water stops along the way where they can refill it when they need to. But you have to cut back on the mileage. And a lot of other schools are doing the same thing. It's just not 100 degrees in Ponca City only. So you got to back off a little bit or run in areas where it's shady and all. We always try and find shady routes.
You were talking about your junior high program, and your numbers every year build in the junior high, and it sounds like that you are positioning yourself for another big junior high year.
We always rely on our 7th and 8th graders, and every now and then we'll get a 6th grader. But right now we got 9 6th graders out. And that's basically because they're coming from schools where they really emphasize running, like Roosevelt and Trout is, and now Lincoln is. And so when they run in our cross-country meet, because there's an elementary race that we're going to have on Thursday, they get interested in it that way. And some of them even do fun runs. So we have several 6th graders, and that's just got to help us later on down the line.
Well, speaking of Thursday, it's a big day in Ponca City as you host your own event. Tell me about that.
We have Enid coming in, Stillwater, We have, I don't want to leave anybody out, especially locally, Sand Springs, Enid, Stillwater, Collinsville, Tonkawa, and Blackwell, Covington Douglas, and Garber. And we're all going to be running together in one big race.
So we're not splitting the race down in, as
No.
far as class size is concerned.
No, and Tonkawa had a good team a couple of years ago. In fact, they were state champions even last year. And so that could be a lot of 6A schools.
Right.
You know, that's their basketball team, basically, they're getting ready for.
A lot of
So,
these small schools, they have great athletes, and if they choose that sport, they're going to be good in that sport.
That's right. It helps them both ways.
Tell me about the course that's going to be taking, or the race is going to be taking place on. I know you've already mapped it out. Tell our viewers about
It's
that.
out at Lake Ponca. It's just across the road from where the sailboat, the marina is, where you got the big, it's the swimming area.
Mhm.
It's right across the road, and it's a 1 mile loop. It's where we used to have regionals back in the 90s and early 2000s. We hosted regionals 6 times, and I think it's one of the prettiest courses you'll find. But we'll start at 4 o'clock with the JV girls and JV boys, and then the varsity girls and boys, and then we have the elementary race. Last year we had over 200. This year we're expecting anywhere between 250 and 300 runners. That's not counting moms and dads who also help with it. So we'll have first graders all the way up to 5th graders running in the elementary race. Even some other schools who's visiting will bring some elementary kids.
Well, I know that you have been a proponent trying to encourage people to come out and to watch the races too. What about spectator viewing?
Oh, excellent place. Coaches like it because it's just a big 1 mile loop, and it gives a chance to go out and see the runners, perform. Last weekend when you're at Enid, basically you see the first quarter of a mile and the last quarter of a mile, and you really don't see much of the race, but the finish line is right in the middle of the course, and the starting line is in the middle of the course, so you can see basically the whole race perform right there.
And the other part is, although it's going to be hot, it's off the lake, so it might be a little cooler than normal.
The cool breeze, yes. That'll help those 95-degree temperatures when that wind's coming off that water.
Good. Who's helping you this year with the cross-country team?
Robert Cash and Wendy Landis. She helps with basketball in the wintertime, so they're really helpful, and it takes 3 people to handle. We got about close to 75 people out for cross country right now.
There was a time when you could do it by yourself, but the numbers indicate you can't do that now, right?
It's just way too big now. Because we have people coming and going. We have some kids that get out there at 140, and then some kids come out at 210 after their must. Then we have the junior high coming in about 240, and then we have some kids from west comes over about 310. So it's got to be somebody there all the time, and I usually out on my bicycle watching the kids perform.
Well, that's not an easy thing on Coach here either. I'm used to watching you run with those kids too.
I wish I could. I can't keep up with some of them now.
Well, that's a good thing too. Hey, congratulations! You're off to a great start, and Thursday at 4 o'clock out at Lake Ponca. Good luck on your event this year.
Thank you.
Kelly Chaney, our cross country coach on Coach's Corner.